So, today at the beginning, what I want to say is all this kind of reflection on the Buddhist practice should not just become a traditional thing. Because, especially for us, the Buddhists, this is, our religion, therefore we should do it. Not in their way. So therefore, what is really important is don't just do something because others are doing. In our human life, human society, the problem is we are just fond of imitating others. All human activities are imitations. And whoever does the best imitation is called a scholar. Right? We are, in a way, in a more negative sense, we are all duplicates. So we have to have some originality. Right? And that originality will come only if you go within yourself and reflect and think. In general, and especially on these teachings, whether it makes sense or not, whether it's useful in your life or not, you need to really reflect. And when you reflect in this way, then you will be able to get many new insights and realizations. Yes, it makes sense, I must do that. That kind of conviction will come. And when there is conviction, then that will move you to do the practice. If there's no conviction, you just read the text, even you memorize the whole book, it's good, but it will not make much impact on your life. Even for a small thing, you need to ask question and think. Like, for example, yesterday we have been talking about impermanence. We got some sense what is impermanent. We all know we are impermanent, things like that. But what is the benefit of knowing that? What is the benefit of knowing that? So therefore here what we need to know, and that is normally how I begin my talks and teachings, by saying that we all want happiness. That's for sure, right? And happiness also not for 1 day or 2 days, but as long as possible. This is a natural thing with all of us. And from Buddhist viewpoint, we say this is good news. Good news in the sense, the fact that you have this wish to get long-lasting happiness actually indicates that if you make the effort, you can achieve that long-lasting happiness. It's really good news. But the problem is, we don't make effort. We make effort just for a short time. When you're listening to His Holiness teaching, or when you're with a good spiritual Dharma friend, then you may pay a little bit attention, then after that, nothing. For 1 day, you get so excited that you forget food, and then you say, I want to do my spiritual practice. As soon as you start studying something, learning something, you want to become a good scholar. That is your aim. After 3 days, you forget everything, and you are carried away by distraction. Such a person will not get anything. That therefore you should make sustained effort, just like the running stream. The running streams, they will never say, it's night, now I will halt and take rest, it's day, I will start running. Not like it will continue to flow. So something like that. Why this is important? This is important because our mind is conditioned very strongly by negative emotions. Why this is another question, but we all know that our mind is really strong, very strongly conditioned by negative emotions, not by positive emotions. Because our mind is so strongly conditioned by negative emotions, it is difficult to undo that conditioning. It's like an iron kind of chain, not easy to break, die-hard habit as we call it. We can give another example, let us say a chronic person, a person who has been suffering from particular disease for a long, long time. For such a person, Taking just one tablet of medicine, or if you take Tibetan medicine, few doses of medicine will not cure that illness. You need to continuously take medicine for a long time and take treatment continuously. Then there is hope to heal. So therefore we are conditioned. We are addicted. Just like somebody who is really, really into drug, It's very difficult to stop it, undo it, because that person is already addicted into it now. Right? So therefore now to come out of this strong die-hard habit, you need to make effort. And again the good news is, if you make effort, you can change it. In many cases, quite inspiring. If you, like now we have studied this a little bit, we will not get much just in few hours, but now if you make a point that now I will start moving. If you make a point saying, they do it, yeah. Magi di chana den da chan hie ni gör. De. Oh, that was right? I mean, based on my own limited experience, I'm not a good practitioner or anything. I'm not saying that I'm special or unique, nothing. But, and also busy, doing this, stupid busy. And nowadays many thinkers, they say, it's not good to be busy. It's not good to be busy. Because in today's world, everybody says, I'm busy, as if to be busy is important. Number one, it is not important to be busy. What's important is what are you busy about. That's important, not just being busy. And then also the second minus point is, if you are too busy in many small useless things, you will not get opportunity for doing the most important big things. That's going within yourself. Right? We are talking about getting happiness. Most of us are not getting much happiness because we are busy, especially in useless things. Right? And we cannot afford to do that because this human life is so precious. And there's not much time. So that's the meaning of concentration. Concentrate on what? Important things. Go within yourself. Make friendship with yourself. Most of us are not happy because you get bored with yourself. As I said yesterday, the modern problem is you don't know how to live alone and also don't know how to live with others. So one of the core teachings in Buddhism is remaining in solitude. When you are in solitude, then you get time to reflect and think and go within yourself, then get the new insight. And you won't get that if you are always with people in the crowd. And now people are like scared of going into the crowd because of this, this virus. See? And things like that. So to be with oneself is the source of getting happiness. Exploring your inner resources is the source of happiness. Understanding who you are. Understanding what is it that you are looking. We're always looking outside, to get something from outside. Inside it's hollow, empty. That's why you suffer from depression. That's why you suffer from loneliness. All, to some extent I can say, all the modern diseases and unhappinesses arise because you are not one piece. You are not with yourself. You are always with others, distracted, doing what others are doing. Just aping and imitating what others are doing. Inside there's nothing. So how can you be happy? The most important thing that we have in our life is our mind. And if that stupid mind is silly and stupid and distracted, how can you be happy? Right? Right? Great teachers, they go into solitude and spend, years You read the life story of Buddha, read the life story of Tsongkhapa, read the life story of many great teachers, even His Holiness, who is so busy, but on and off he goes to retreat. Then of course in the mornings, he gets up around 3:34, then until around 9, he's doing Dharma study, practice, meditation, prostration. And we don't do these things. The first thing we do is watch TV. And the last thing we do when we go to sleep is watch TV. And in many cases, watching a horror movie and then sleeping, then you get the nightmare. So we need to change our lifestyle a little bit. I'm not saying you don't enjoy. I'm not trying to, give you a bleak picture saying that you should lead a life which is lackluster and don't enjoy. I'm not saying that. Of course, enjoy, be happy. Be happy means happy in the true sense. Happy in the true sense. True sense means on a smaller scale, you need to get absorbed and lost in small things. There's another small level of happiness. How do you get happiness? You get happiness just by opening yourself to happiness. Sometimes you're just walking and see a beautiful flower, and you get absorbed in it, you get lost into that flower. Immediately you're happy, right? So that also indicates the more you loosen your grasping to yourself. I'm not saying, I'm making a contradictory statement. One, I said, go within yourself. That doesn't mean that you grasp onto yourself. Go within yourself in a conventional sense, understand it, but without grasping. Practice letting go. That is a topic that we are going to discuss tomorrow. So therefore, whatever you are doing, whatever practices you are doing, you need to really make sure, is this contributing to my long-lasting happiness? This is important. Whatever you are doing, ask some question. Will this be useful for me, for my, if not permanent happiness, but at least a little bit more durable, long-lasting happiness for me and for others? That should be the criteria of all your activities. And this need to be told to yourself constantly, because most of the time we run after pleasures. We are pleasure-seeking beings. Pleasure-seeking means pleasing your senses. The eye, something beautiful to see; ear, something, pleasant to hear; tongue, something tasty to taste; and the body, something soft to touch. So we are enslaved by the 5 senses. So we run after sensual pleasures. And in order to add fuel to the fire, the external facilities, like the shopping complexes, malls, they are all coming because they know your weakness, that you are prone, you are susceptible to the dictates of the senses. Then they will come up with this wonderful display, array of gadgets and things like that to entrap you further. Buy this, this is so good for you, Then you're already lost. The more you run after sensual pleasures, the more you chase external objects, the more you will get tired. That's the truth. The more you go within yourself, understand yourself, and especially understand the law of nature, including impermanence that we discussed yesterday. The more you see the reality, for example, as I said yesterday, the more you understand impermanence, the more you will see the lack of essence in anything. Juchala, Nolungchu, wealth, relatives, family, name, money, we need that, but from there we don't get the long-lasting happiness. No, we will get that long-lasting happiness from them, no, these people will be with you all the time. When our mind is not thinking, then I'll be always with my brother, always with my sister, always with my husband, wife. But the reality is, Anything can happen anytime. You may be gone, brother may be gone, sister may be gone. We have all those experiences. And when you know that, then this will help you, number one, not to develop grasping to anything, because you know their impermanence. And not to develop grasping does not mean that you don't show concern and responsibility to your near and dear ones. In fact, the more you know the meaning of impermanence, the more you will love them without grasping. This is a very interesting thing related to the law of nature. The more you understand the reality, like impermanence, like for example, if you are somebody who has this wonderful understanding that all this brothers, sisters, husband, wife, they are supporting me, loving me, they'll all be gone very soon. When, I don't know. I don't know whether I will go fast, they will go fast, but they'll all be gone soon. We'll all be separated, because anything that comes together by the law of nature, it has to be separated. So once you have that understanding, then you will develop this realization. This being the case right now, because we have this opportunity to be together, I should be nice. I should show my love. I should show my compassion. You see. Not last year, the year before, 2-3 years before, when I was giving this public talk in Moscow, I was saying something like this, impermanent, things like that. Then there was a young man who asked me, Geshe, if everything is impermanent, then how can I love my girlfriend? This is our thinking, you see. My girlfriend should be with me all the time. My brother should be with me all the time. So he asked me this question. If everything is impermanent, then how can I love my girlfriend? I said, wonderful, this is a good question. And I said, if you know your girlfriend as impermanent, you will love your girlfriend more. Because if your girlfriend is permanent, no hurry, love any time. Because that person is impermanent, now is the time to show love, to show compassion, to help. It's amazing, if you understand this law of nature. So that is how it helps, this understanding of impermanence. On the one hand, help you not to develop grasping to anything. We need to use wealth, maintain that connection with friends, relatives, and so forth. But we know that they are not the long-lasting source of happiness and peace. They will all be gone. I need to learn how to go by myself alone at the end of the day, whether you like it or not. The law of nature has actually taught you right from the beginning. When you came into this world, you came alone. You did not come with a host of brothers, sisters together. Even in the case of twins, there are some, differences. You don't come together. You come alone, without any possession, without even clothes, naked, without teeth, without hair, worse than me. Really? And then we go in the same way. Again, you lose your hair, as I'm losing now. Your teeth will also go and things like that. But we give some designation. This is my brother, this is my sister, this is my husband, wife, and then you develop obsessive attachment. To some people you develop obsessive attachment. To some people you develop hatred, disliking. I don't want to see this ugly fellow. He's the worst person I've ever seen in the world. So you make this division, unnecessary division. Friends, enemy, neutral sentient beings. You categorize. We are very fond of categorizing people, in putting them in different boxes. Daddy, something to fight with, something to love with. In the true sense of the term, it doesn't really make any sense. Because at the end of the day, everybody is going to die, whoever they are. Everybody at the core of their being wants happiness. Nobody wants suffering. Even in the case of a terrorist or a very mean person, in the core of that person, he doesn't want suffering, doesn't want problem. Right? So therefore, understanding the law of nature, like impermanence, is so important. This reminds me of teaching by Contaminate, who says, "Ne korbe dunge yotojo tange phuge te slab gre ngomgre da chana so phuge jang slab gordi. Ne korbe dunge yotojo da dangzin dunji chepe na slabre. All the sufferings that you see in the samsara, ne korbe dunge yotojo da dangzin dunji chepe na, these are harms inflicted by the enemy self-grasping. Da dangzin dunji chepe. Te tungne jimbe thapsula puthandu chu jimbe bare. So therefore, you, my son, who aspires liberation, your job is to eradicate, remove that self-grasping, which is the root of samsara. However, this is very subtle. Not easy to remove self-grasping and develop this antidote to self-grasping. So therefore you need to start with something little bit easier to understand, little bit grosser. Something that, however, this is very subtle, very profound. And before you know that it's very subtle and very profound meaning, which is emptiness, before you know that, you should know the more grosser level of impermanence. With the impermanence also there are subtle impermanence, grosser impermanence. Know the grosser level of impermanence and grosser level of suffering, which we are studying right now. Then after that, selflessness, emptiness and so forth. So there are steps that you need to follow. Now when we talk about the grosser level of impermanence, for example, grosser level of impermanence is something that you can even visually see. For example, collapsing of a house. Collapsing of a house. Kangbarido tongdoa, sagdoa. The rakbe medama, mig tongyor, kangbarido. Mishidoa. We see people dying. We see house collapsing. So we are able to understand the grosser level of impermanence. Right? So from there you should learn. And then subtle impermanence means that the very existence of anything, any conditioned thing, the very existence is caused by another cause. It is produced in the nature of impermanence. It is produced in the nature of disintegration. Now when we talk about the very subtle impermanence, then these days if you use a powerful microscope, you may be able to see what is happening in your body. Use some of these modern machines, powerful machines, to see your reality. It's just like a bubbling energy. Hopes then ostua. The mig rakwa then ostua that chukjuk da tanga ostua. The ship sakboj matena. Bubbles. Buddha spoke about this a long time back. 2,500 years before. Buddha spoke about this. Zugni uvadevada. The physical form is like a bursting bubble. Sorva chui churishan. Your feelings are like water bubbles. Things like that. So now we can see that. And when you see that, you might get frightened. Why? You get frightened. You will get frightened. Why? Because you thought you are something concrete. Especially when you are angry. How dare you say this to me? And with this stupidity, we even jump in front of a cannon, machine gun, and get killed. Stupidity. Remare. Major doing like Chungaji, he meant the power is the e knowledge. Major Jammy, he did what. So therefore, the more you see this impermanent nature, as I said, the more physically also, in terms of physical health also, you will be able to take care of yourself much better than before. And then by seeing this impermanent nature of your body, not knowing when you are going to die, it should inspire you to seize the moment right now and do the good things. Spiritual practice. Now spiritual practice, again, when I say spiritual practice, it's not so much about ritual. Ritual also, it has its own benefits, but not so much about ritual. The real spiritual practice means what they call as, in Tibetan we say, Yungrung Gichu. Yungrung Gichu. In Hindi they call it Sanatan Dharma. Means practice that you are going to do, like loving kindness, impermanence, they are everlasting truths. It doesn't have to be confined in one place, one group. These are everlasting truths. Impermanence everywhere. Usefulness or compassion is everywhere. Because it came from Buddhism. If you don't want to accept it, it's your choice or your problem. But these are everlasting truths. So it's by doing this practices you can really get happiness. Like, I'll give you an example. And there is a prayer by a Buddhist teacher who says, if I'm going to die today, wonderful. Look at this. That practitioner, he says, if I'm going to die today, wonderful. Why? Because I'm not going to live long creating problems to others, committing sins, So it's good if I die today. But don't think that he is pessimistic. And then immediately after that he says, if I'm not going to die today but going to live a long, healthy life, wonderful. Then I do all the good things. Do Dharma practice. You see? So for such a person with such a wonderful mental attitude, anything is wonderful. Everything is wonderful. So in our case also, if our change our attitude, we will be happy. Happiness means basically satisfaction. Genuine satisfaction. And you won't get that genuine satisfaction by cheating others or bullying others or leading a life of duplicity. You might get fleeting pleasures, as I said already, but you are not going to get that genuine satisfaction. Genuine satisfaction will come when you lead a life where there is no duplicity, when you genuinely help somebody. It's nothing but human nature. Nothing but human nature. Right? So it's not like when we talk about doing Dharma practice, practicing compassion, we are not talking, about like doing a philanthropic service, helping others, and nothing for yourself. No, it's at the end of the day best for you. Not to talk about compassion and loving kindness, even in terms of giving. A scientific survey has been done. Who gets more happiness, the giver and the receiver? Scientific test has been done. They found that the giver gets more happiness than the receiver. To our ordinary way of thinking, the receiver should get more happiness because he gets something. The giver is losing something, right? But because if you had practiced that giving with genuine love, genuine compassion, genuine understanding, just like you are giving something to your very, very dear sister who you did not meet for a long, long time, and you give something, you don't feel that loss. You feel so happy. I'm able to give this to my sister. satisfaction is there. Just like mothers giving things to their kids, you see. So what I'm saying is your mental framework of your mind, how you think. Like with this weather right now, for example, we can be happy, we can be unhappy. We can be unhappy, not because the weather is horrible, but again, in addition to that, the situation of the weather, your mind will start complaining, saying, "This horrid weather, damn this weather. Miserable, unending winter, still raining, it may be snow there, out there, How can I go to Meghalaya to enjoy a nice food, You start counting all the miseries that can happen with this rain and things like that. You keep on complaining. But you're complaining the weather will not change. The weather will not say, "Sorry, madam, I did not realize you are feeling very cold. I will stop raining." The weather will never say that. It will continue. And you, because of your own mental attitude, you will suffer much more than that other person who has a positive attitude about the weather. The person with the positive attitude will say, "It's good now, it is raining, but from tomorrow onward, tomorrow is raining. Then after that, there's sun and sun." Now we can see in our mobile phone, I've seen that. There's bright sunshine for many, many days. So you think more about the sunshine than about the darkness and the... Because you see what you want to see. If you keep on seeing bad things, you will keep on seeing bad things. Therefore, many of the Buddhist teachers, they say, there many a times it's important that you live as if you are completely blind and completely deaf. There are many things you should not be hearing. So you have both the ears intact, but pretend you don't hear anything. Remain like a deaf. There are many things you should not be seeing. There you should act as if you are blind. Then many occasions you should not be saying anything. Kupa, dump. Right? So what I'm saying is basically whether you will be happy or not is primarily in your hand, not in the hand of any external agent. Now, to get that happiness, it's not so much about how long you live. It is how you live today, now. Now you should be happy. Tomorrow, kal phir dikha jayega. Tomorrow we'll see later on. But right now I should be happy. And how can you be happy now? You might think, how can I be happy? This Geshe Lhakdor, stupid one. Why is saying happy? It's so cold here, There's another way of, thinking negatively, You can be happy. Again, as some of you must have heard, again, when I was giving this talk in Moscow, I was saying again something like this. Then in the front row, I remember very well, in the front row, there was a very elderly Russian lady sitting there. She said, "Geshe-la, how can I be happy? I have nothing to be happy about. I'm an old Russian lady, living alone, How can I be happy?" She asked me this question. This is a pertinent question. Then I told her, "Yes, I know you have problem, but I see you have both the eyes intact." And then she said, yes, of course. "And the both hands intact." "Yes, of course." That's the point. How many people are there in the world who doesn't have eye, doesn't have hands? I myself saw people who are without both the legs, both the hands, but very cheerful. I saw it a few years back in America. There was this man who has lost, because of some disease, lost both of his arms and legs, and moving on a kind of wooden plank, carrying this mobile phone on the neck, and using somehow, his, parts of body, and then taking photos of other people, smiling, and so happy. He was really like shining out. His face was radiant, and he was very happy. See? Now imagine if we are in that situation. So how come you have everything and you are not able to remain happy, cheerful. Be cheerful. There's every reason to be. Once somebody came to me and asked me, Geshe, teach me meditation. I said, you want meditation? She said, yes, please teach me meditation. Then I said, go out. If you want meditation, go out and imitate like a cow, act like a cow. This whole morning you imagine you are not human being, you are a cow. And then do exactly how the cow will do, where the cow will find the food, where the cow will sleep. Do exactly like that. That's the best meditation. Then after doing that, you will realize what it means to be human being. So it's important to if you don't know gold as gold, it's very likely you will just give a kick and go away. So it's important to, that's why in Buddhism we call this human life precious human life. Precious human life primarily because of your wonderful human intelligence, the capacity to think, the capacity to analyze, capacity to judge. In terms of physical size, there are many animals much more stronger, more agile than us, but because of this great human intelligence, they are controlling all of these animals. But lots of problems are created by human beings because this human mental potential, capacity, is used in the wrong way. If you use it in the right way, you become Buddha, you become His Holiness the Dalai Lama, and so forth. But if you use it in the wrong way, then it creates all kinds of problems. Problems which cannot be created by animals. Now this virus that everybody is alarmed right now is creation of human being. To be honest, creation of human being, because we have no ethics. We keep on eating animals alive, all kinds of animals. If you read the story of the ants, it came from monkey, people living with monkey, So it's all our doing, misusing this human intelligence. So it's important, therefore, to use this great human potential in the right direction. So there's the point that I want to make, right? And then the second topic. Let us read this explanation of the four seals of Buddhism. We read it a little bit yesterday. So we left somewhere in the middle. The moment it comes into existence, the process of disintegration has already begun. We finished reading that. In other words, the mechanism for cessation is built into the system itself. We are born to die. It is as if things and events carry the seed of their eventual demise. The simple reason is that anything that is produced through causes is other powered. Anything that is produced by cause means it's other power. That means it is dependent on the cause. So you are helpless. You have to go by the rule as it has been produced by that cause. And the cause has produced you in such a way that you are fragile, you are transient, you are impermanent. Its very existence comes about only in dependence upon other factors. This Buddhist view of phenomena as dynamic and of momentary nature, which emerges as a consequence of the principle of universal impermanence, is quite close to the view of a dynamic, ever-changing physical universe as presented by modern physics. According to the modern physics also, when they analyze things, they find everything in a flux. Like with the particles, one of the main focus is the particles, They go down, and then the scientist is hoped that one day they will find a particle which they can say this is the smallest particle, this is the fundamental building block of the particle, there cannot be subtler than this. We found it, that's what they wanted to say. But with the improvement of the scientific technology, device, process of investigation, the more and they more analyze the subtle particle, the more and more they find something else. Now they are talking about a wave-particle duality. When they thought this is a particle, looks like changes into wave. When they thought this is a wave, it looks like particle, And the Buddha has 2,500 years before said, you will never find a particless particle. Imagine. You see? Right? So therefore, things are dynamic, produced by causes and conditions. So let me read a little bit again from the topic on impermanence, just few points. So in the Lamrim text, they are saying that now since we have obtained this very precious human life, we need to get the meaning out of this human life. Extract the meaning out of this human life. So one of the best ways of extracting the essence of human life is meditation on impermanence. So then, therefore, the text talks about the faults of not meditating or not remembering death, and the benefits of meditating on death, and what kind of mind you should generate by recollecting the death, and the process of remembering death. And then first he briefly talks about what are the faults of not remembering death. The faults of, lots of things can be said, but the faults of not remembering death is, the more you plan to live long, the more you need many things. Right? Your grasping, your clinging will increase multifold. And then forget about doing any spiritual practice. Forget about thinking about transforming your mind. And that's what we see in the rest of the world, everywhere in the materialistic world, in big cities. People are running hither and thither just for money. Just for money. Something to eat. I should not say pathetic, which is not good, but really, there's all they care about. And then, if this is how they spend, just eating and going to the toilet and sleeping, then how can we say human beings are special? Even in the Christian religion, they say human beings are crown of creation. How can we then become the crown of creation? In Buddhism, we call it precious human life. How can it be precious human life? Just eating and sleeping and going to the toilet. Such a vestige, right? So therefore, if you don't remember death, you will not think about doing the right thing, doing the spiritual practice. And the advantages of meditation is contrary to what I said. You're grasping, you're clinging to things, to people, to name and fame. Now, for example, if you reduce that grasping to name and fame, especially in the case of leaders in the world, if they have this little bit of understanding of impermanence, then all these wrongdoings like corruption will cease. All the problems created by the world leaders and whoever, people have power, they do many wrong things because of their grasping to power, to name. And they are unable to see the hollowness, the futility of the name. A name is what? Just a word. And if you really want a good name, you will get good name by doing good things. But many of the leaders I see in the world, especially the political leaders, they want name, but they try to get their name in the wrong way. By dividing people, by making different political parties in the name of this religion, their religion. Unfortunately, that is like a big problem in the world today. This is all because of grasping to power, name, fame, money, and so forth. Then, now if this is the case, then what kind of recollection of death one should cultivate? What kind of? Now here, if you say that I fear death, when we talk about remembering death, if you say that I remember death, I fear death because I don't want to get separated from my relatives and friends. We are not talking about that kind of fear. That kind of fear is useless. And secondly, also if you say I fear death because when the death comes, I will be no more. I will become non-existent. That's also stupid way of thinking, because whether you like it or not, you are born to die, as I said. So here when we talk about fear of death means that having done negative things and not having accumulated any positive things, if I die, then I will have to experience the consequences of the wrongdoings. And then I will suffer for many lives to come. With this kind of fear, if you are able to develop this kind of fear, then that is the right fear that you need to develop. Now, of course, here the question comes, who has seen future life? Many people today think they don't believe in future life. This is the life, enjoy. This is all, for me, this is almost like saying that who has seen my tomorrow? I don't care about tomorrow, I care only today. If you say something like that, isn't that stupid? Tomorrow is yet to come. Forget about future life. Even tomorrow is yet to come. You have not seen tomorrow. But you plan for tomorrow. And that tomorrow comes. And what kind of tomorrow you will have dependent upon what kind of life you led yesterday. Similar is the case. And one another probably maybe interesting indication is when we go to bed and sleep, right? Then your body is more or less dead. You may be snoring, you are unable to see anything, your nose also unable to smell anything, you are more or less dead. But your mind, what happens with your mind? Your mind starts, in many cases, the deeper the sleep, the mind becomes very active. And then the mind goes to New York shopping, Meghalorganj shopping. Have you had that kind of dream? The mind traveling from meeting your friends far away, talking, and having dinner, picnicking. For me, this shows the possibility of the mind separating from the body and experiencing the predispositions that is left on one's mind. That's the indication. Because the subtler you go to the mind becomes more free. That's another important point that you should know. Normally, as I said, that the more you depend on the grosser level of consciousness, including the sense consciousness, then you don't give an opportunity to the mental consciousness, the main mind, to reflect and to go within. That's called distraction. We get distracted to external things through the sensual objects. And this mind doesn't, the most important thing, doesn't get an opportunity. So therefore, we are constantly told, meditate. That means going within. Right? And in fact, when we talk about doing spiritual practice, then the involvement of the mind is the most important thing. Spiritual practices cannot be done by the sense consciousness. You see His Holiness, you feel happy. But the real, happiness or blessing has to be obtained by the mental consciousness. So any spiritual practice you do, you should involve your mind and leave an imprint on your mind. Leave an imprint on the mind means get your mind habituated with your practice. Because when you die, it is not your senses that will go to the next world. What goes to the next world is your mind, just as you have seen your mind going to New York for shopping when you are sleeping. Similarly, the mind will go. And what kind of experience the mind will have? It is dependent upon in what area you are habituated. If you are habituated with killing, you will continue to do so, and you will suffer. You are habituated with compassion and love, you will be happy. Does it make sense? Although it's very difficult to convince people regarding these things, not only future life, about the mind. The problem arises from the mind. We all talk about the mind. My mind is happy, my mind is not happy. But when you are asked to explain, where is this mind? You hardly have any explanation, right? You hardly have any explanation. And that's the problem, We are corporeal beings, we give credit only to the body, the things that we can see. Body, you take some care. You are not good. Again, with your body also you are not good. The food you give yourself, you are not very good. But at least you care. You feed yourself, you clothe yourself. And then you take care as much as possible. You are not perfect, but at least you do something. But with the mind, what do you do? What do you give to the mind? That's the problem. That's why spiritual practice is important. It's important because your life is primarily controlled by not the body, but your mind. And when such a question is asked, then everybody says, mind. But normally that's not how we think. We think, I means body. Take care of the body. For the body, you give everything, and then do your exercise and jogging and so many things. For the mind, what kind of food you are giving to the mind? What kind of exercise you are giving to the mind? And what kind of products are available in the market to facilitate your mind? Nothing. That's the problem. So that's why I summarize this problem by saying that many of the problems that we see in the world today is primarily due to starvation of the mind. Starvation. Simla khalating yo mare. So therefore, spiritual practice means feeding the mind, giving energy to the mind, which is so important. Take the example of great practitioners like Milarepa. So happy with nothing. And I had the great fortune of seeing the followers of Tihor Kyorpun Rinpoche, who was nicknamed as Modern Milarepa. I did not have the fortune to see him, but I saw his brother and some of his followers, 5-6 of them, in Dalhousie. They virtually have nothing. I visited their small places, stone piles with some canvas top. You go in, nothing. But they're happy. And most of us have so many things, but not happy, Still want more, still want more, Now especially with this online purchasing, Your greed is filled, So many attractive things that I need this, I need that. There may be an element of truth, but most of the time it is greed. As Mahatma Gandhi said, there is enough for everybody's need, but not enough for everybody's greed. And it is the greed that is destroying this planet today. Right? Are we destroying the planet? You should really be conscious about what is happening in the world today. The melting of glaciers, the global warming and things like that. It's horrifying. It's horrifying. And instead of taking care of this environmental degradation and so forth, we keep on fighting within ourselves. What a tragedy. Re Maria. If there is an environmental catastrophe, like global warming or glacial melting or earthquake and things like that, will all suffer. Doesn't matter who you are, rich or poor, American or Chinese or Tibetan, whoever you are, will all suffer. If there is a global climate catastrophe, will all suffer. But a problem of such magnitude, we are not doing much. We are not showing much attention. Instead, we are fighting among ourselves. So therefore, sometimes I'm really a little bit thankful to the nature. Nature is unbiased. Human beings are biased. You belong to this religion, that religion, from this family, that family. So nature will teach us the lesson. You see, just by seeing the nature, the world in which we live, we should know how to live harmoniously. I'm talking big. And it's important to talk big. Because unless you really tell the bitter truth, I don't think people will ever wake up. Now this epidemic, viruses and other things come, then people start a little bit, especially if it is near their door, then they go, oh, what should I do? And many cases it's too late. When people like His Holiness the Dalai Lama is teaching everybody, be compassionate, be loving, don't harm the animals, things like that, hardly anybody listens. Now when there is a problem, then they say, His Holiness, can you teach us a prayer? And in fact, some of them contacted His Holiness. What kind of prayer? And His Holiness suggested you do the Tara mantra. Things like that. The mantra will help you if you have the faith. But if you don't have the faith, then what in the so therefore, with the meditation on the recollection of death, first you should think, I'm going to die definitely. Death is definite. Rava? Not very good news. Second, time of death is indefinite. That means it can come any time. Don't think that you are healthy, young, so you will not die, It can happen any time. And at the time of the death, the only thing that is useful is Dharma. Dharma here means not a particular dogmatic religion, but Dharma means if you have, habituated with some positive practices, that will help you to reduce fear and also to take a good rebirth. It will help you. And that kind of habit must be formed right now. It cannot be done at the last moment of the, death. When you are dying, it may be difficult unless you are habituated. So you get habituated right now to such an extent that there will be no fear at all. Because if you have, the fear is dependent upon your understanding. If you have the understanding, knowledge of the nature of the death, then, as I said in the beginning of, if you have time, you should read the first chapter of 400 verses by Aryadeva. It beautifully talks about how to, understand and face death and things like that. Right? So if you understand it, as I said yesterday, all this law of nature, including death, impermanence, has to be understood, nothing to be feared. If you understand it, there's no need to fear. Just like that, when you go to bed tonight and sleep, do you get fear? Do you get fear? Because you're used to it. It's like dying. But not only you have no fear, but you will enjoy it. Now I'm going to die peacefully. Same thing. Because death is like changing clothes. There's no death to the mind. Do you get fear when you change your clothes? You don't get fear, right? You remove your coat, you don't get fear. Similarly, you die. Die means leaving your body, but mind, there is no death. You will only have fear if you have done many negative things. Otherwise, there is no need to fear. So this is all question of understanding. Now with the first, we need to convince you that death is definite. Death is definite because the Lord of death means death will come and nobody can stop it. You ask all the lamas to do the most important pujas and prayers, it may help you a little bit, but nobody can stop death. There's not a single person in the world who can be a witness saying that this person never died. Right? And secondly, death is definite because you cannot add to your life. Whatever is the lifespan, it is the lifespan. You cannot add more to it. But there are many things that will help in ebbing your life out. If you eat wrong food, life will be shortened. If you don't do much exercise, probably life will be shortened. Things like that. Then these days, car accident, aeroplane accident, so many things. So there's no addition, but there are many things that will, reduce the life. And then even while the third thing is, even when you are alive, you die without getting time to do spiritual practice. Now, for example, in our case, how much spiritual practice you have done already? Not much. Rwa. Yomarwa. And dine je hirur. Tamju chiju majung nishu chins. Chego samne nishu chins. Majung sene nishu chins. Mise tungpa seve namdaris. Not being able to do Dharma practice, you passed 20 years. That is when you are very young. Then in the next 20 years, that is 20 to 40, chego samne nishu chins. I will do Dharma practice. But not doing. Then you waste another 20 years. Now you are 40. And then 40 to 60, you are already growing old. Then you regret by saying, I could not do Dharma practice. And when you get even older, then your eyesight fails. If you want to read something, you can't read, you see. Things like that. Right? So therefore, it's really, really important to reflect and study some of these things. It can change your life. And that is the best way of, as I said, that's the best way of investing in yourself. Best investment. And also the best way of helping your younger generation. You're all young, but there will be people younger than you also. And if you want to help them, how are you going to help them? Just giving money? That's what we do in the ordinary society, just building some. If you're rich, you make some building, house, in which how long that person is going to live, nobody knows. Then food and the car, maybe, things like that. But not many people give the real thing. Education. Especially spiritual education. So important. Education means human flourishment. And unfortunately today, even the meaning of education is misunderstood. People think education means reading, writing, mathematics. That's the education. But the real education means human flourishment, human personality development, to produce people who are happy, who are calm, who are relaxed, That's what we want through education. But the schools and universities are not producing that kind of people, We are producing a bunch of people who are running after money all the time, who don't care about the dwindling natural resources. So that's the problem, right? And then the second is indefiniteness of death. Indefiniteness of death because it is said that in some continents there is some definiteness of their lifespan. But in the Zambudeva, in Zambuling, where we live, there is no definiteness. There was a time when people used to live immeasurable, years. Then now maximum 100 years. So there's no definite. And then second, indefiniteness of death is true because there are many causes and conditions for death, but not much for life. Even the medicines that you eat, medicines that you pop in your mouth all the time, many of these medicines I'm very doubtful how good they are. Although they come in packets with many very nice illustrations and pictures, saying that it's good for your heart, for your ear, for things like that. But I really don't know how good they are. Because these big companies, they manage to advertise and, supply things because they have the money power. I'm really doubtful. So therefore, you should, as much as possible, try to lead a life where you don't have to depend on medicines. According to Buddhist teaching, the best medicine is food. The best medicine is food and water. For example, in the case of water, unfortunately today people are even selling water. That's where we are now. The so-called intelligent human beings, not able to get free water for drinking. Right? So, but still, water is much better than Coca-Cola or any of the so-called soft drinks. And I can proudly talk about this because I'm not interested in many of the soft drinks I don't take. I've not taken an oath, but I hardly touch them. So, it's not good for your health. You pay money, not good for your health. And then you just go by the label, and the label, the bottle looks nice, the packet looks nice. And then for putting, you need something nice, then Kupa. Really stupid. We are really stupid. I'm sorry to use this word, but we are really, including me, we are kupa. Very gullible. Never think what is good for oneself. And then you drink water free. Boiled water, so good for health. Taste. If the more water you drink, the more it becomes tasty. But Coca-Cola, how much you can drink? The more you drink, then you will collect some thickness on your tongue. Mindu achosira behate goju, na goju, hi goju. That tili kupase odi. Tichiju mares. So don't go for the book by the cover, as we say. And in Buddhism, one very important topic is bridging the gap between appearance and reality, which I'm going to talk tomorrow. We go after appearance. See the reality, not go after appearance. Oh yeah. So there are many causes, factors for death, but not much for example, even those, the text says, even those which are supposed to be, factors for your health, for your life, they can also become causes for your death. For example, not to die, we drink, we eat food. But that food, that drink might become hindrance for your health. Then the house that we build might collapse and kill you, things like that. And then with the food also, if you eat too much, you get problem. If you get too little, problem. You need to have moderation. And then taking food which you cannot digest. The dia ngazo hakumunda ku what the re ngazo. Sajaro ta ke os mendo se sajaro. En sanyana ni nyangre ya. And then collapsing of houses, cheated by so-called your friend, relatives. Cheated by your husband, wife, boyfriend, girlfriend, For the first few days before the marriage, the honeymoon period, they call it, and then walking on the cloud. Shivachiga jenibet. Nimakashi jelen changsa japsa, and dugru. I'm not trying to give you a pessimistic picture, but I'm giving you warning. Be careful. Be careful. And at the time of the death, the only thing that is beneficial is spiritual practice, as I said. Because whether you like it or not, at the end of the day, you have to go alone. Not go alone means not when you die. Even now, when you're alive, there are many times when you have to go alone. You have to travel alone to Delhi. You have to travel alone to America. Many times you have to go alone. So in those times, if you are educated, you are compassionate, it will help you. If you are patient, tolerant, but not stupid, it will help you. But if you are really stupid, no love, no compassion, and angry, then even if you have lot of money, you'll get a lot of problems. So that's the bitter truth, even when we are alive. So the main point is, so in this way we'll die, that's for sure. Now when we die, if it is like the extinction of a butter lamb, that's the end of the story, then it's a different thing, we don't have to worry about it. But as I said, at least the Buddhist teachings say, that when you die, you don't disappear into nothingness. The mind will continue. That's not a problem. The problem is, if your mind has been habituated with negative things, then there's a big problem. The big problem is, either you will be born in a happy migration, or in a bad migration. That means born as an animal or hell being and things like that. If you are born like that, you will have a lot of suffering. So therefore, the second point of the second seal states, let us read this together. The second seal states that all contaminated phenomena are by nature unsatisfactory. Contaminated phenomena by nature unsatisfactory. In this context, contaminated phenomena refers to all things, events, underlying events, experience and so forth that are products of contaminated actions and the underlying delusions that give rise to them. So here when we talk about suffering coming from impermanent, therefore from impermanence comes suffering. Now when we say suffering coming from impermanence, we are not talking about suffering coming from omniscience, because omniscience is also impermanent. Here we are talking about a particular impermanence. Particular impermanence means the causes which produced our body, our life, are negative emotions and contaminated actions. So anything, any product that is produced by contaminated actions and delusions, negative emotions, cannot be happy, will be suffering. So therefore, that's the meaning of understanding suffering from impermanence. Impermanence means changing through negative emotions and contaminated actions. So that kind of impermanent change will produce suffering. There's the meaning here. Anything that is produced is other-powered in the sense that it is under the control of factors other than itself. For example, in general, its causes and conditions, and particularly here, the causes and conditions are negative emotions and afflictive emotions. Here, causes specifically refers to our own fundamental ignorance, afflictive emotions and cognitive events, and contaminated actions. Also, ignorance must be perceived as a passive state of mere not to be perceived as a passive state of mere non-awareness. Rather, it is a deluded state of mind, a fundamental misapprehension of the nature of reality. So this we are going to discuss tomorrow, but what it says is here when we talk about ignorance, it's not just lack of knowledge. That's what he's saying here. Ignorance here is not just lack of knowledge, but misconception of reality. Misconception of reality. Misconception of reality can bring a lot of problem. And understanding the reality as it is can bring a lot of benefit. But misconception means because you did not understand the reality, you have some wrong ideas about it, and that wrong idea brings a lot of problem. For example, if I look at you, little bit, strange face, and then I chant Om Tare Tutare Ture Swan, but you can't hear, but just I move my mouth. You will develop wrong conception. Actually, I am reciting Tara Mantra, but you judge me because of my look, you must start thinking he's cursing me. And then you get problem, you get angry. The clearest example that is given in the text is there is a story of a teacher, an Indian story, who after giving his teaching asked one of his students to go to take the book and give it on the table in his living room. So the boy goes and comes back frightened by saying, "Sir, I cannot keep the book on your table because there is a snake lying at the foot of your table." Then the teacher says, "Okay, no problem, I'll give you some mantra. Chant that mantra and place the book on the table." So he goes there chanting the mantra, but again comes back frightened by saying, "I chanted your mantra, but it didn't help. Still the snake is lying there." Then the teacher says, "Take this lamp, torch, light, take this lamp and put the book on the table." He goes back with the lamp. When he uses the lamp, he was able to see things clearly. What he saw was not a snake, but a coil of rope. You see? A wonderful example. Wonderful example. You know, there's no snake, but you get so much fear as if there is a real snake. That's the point. You know, many of your fear, suspicion are because of your wrong conception, misconception. So therefore, ignorance is here. When we talk about ignorance as the root cause of samsara, we are not talking about, you know, ignorance as mere absence of knowledge or lack of knowledge. But misconception means, ignorance means misconception of reality. Mayimba chikle yimba tane, lokpartawa. Oh, this is good. Oh, duksere. So from negative emotions, from impermanent causes like negative emotions and afflictive actions or contaminated actions can bring much problem. And the problems are many types of suffering that we get. That suffering there are countless sufferings. Headache, stomach ache. Those dear friends you wanted to meet, you are not meeting them, you feel sad. Those people you don't want to meet, they seem to be standing at the corner and always waiting for you. This is a problem. If you're looking for a job, you're not getting a job. Suffering of sickness, suffering of aging, suffering of birth. Is birth suffering? Is birth suffering? The Buddha said birth is suffering, aging is suffering, death is suffering, sickness is suffering. But we are celebrating birth, happy birthday. So birth is suffering or happy? Huh? Who is right? Are we right or Buddha is right? Happy birthday. This is easy to know because if you look at the behavior of the child immediately after the birth, what is the first thing that the child does? Is crying or laughing? If the first thing the child does is laughing, we will get frightened. Very unusual. Tibetans might say, oh, maybe Rinpoche is saying. So the usual thing is, the first thing that the child is crying, which means he's not happy, he's suffering. But I'm not saying don't celebrate, there's a different way of doing things. Anyway, so basically all these different kind of sufferings are summarized in three main topics in Buddhism. First is called suffering of suffering. That means the obvious sufferings, the headache, the stomach ache, that we all know, even the animals know. Obvious suffering, that's called suffering. We don't want that suffering of suffering. We don't want at all any of these sufferings. We don't want even the bite of mosquito. And then second is suffering of change. Suffering of change, we don't understand suffering of change as suffering. We normally think that as happiness. For example, you have been sitting here for an hour and a half nearly now. So because I did not force you to come, you came voluntarily, so I hope it's not too much a problem, too much suffering. But your mind is determined to sit here an hour and a half, not more than that. Now if I speak a little bit more, even 10 minutes more, you will start looking at, it's so cold and she doesn't stop here, Then that original kind of happiness will immediately change into suffering. And when you are hungry, you really relish the food, first chapati or first cup of soup or whatever. You relish it. Oh, that tokoshi udo, spechi udo. Keep on, go on eating. How many rotis, how many breads you can eat? As we have studied in economics, the law of marginal utility will come back. Then you start vomiting, you see. So this is basically saying a big thing. The big thing is that with this ordinary contaminated human experiences, it will not give you long-lasting happiness. The more you enjoy it, the more you will see the shortcoming, the drawbacks. And then finally there's a third level of suffering which is called conditioned, pervasive conditioned suffering. That means you have all these problems and difficulties because of the very nature of your psychophysical aggregate. For example, if you look at your body, this body is not made of diamond or iron or things like that. It's made of flesh and bone, very fragile. And then we can easily accept that this is prone to suffering. When we suffer, it's not shocking. What else will you expect with such a body? So the Buddhist teaching is saying, if you don't want to experience all these sufferings, then you purify your negative emotions and take a life where your body is not susceptible to this kind of sufferings. So there's the thing. So there's the second. This is clearly stated by various Indian masters such as Dharma Kirti, that is Sanyi Law. Okay, we'll continue to read this tomorrow. So today stop here. Before you start suffering of change, let us stop here. Thank you.